Let's go ahead on crude oil. Okay, let's go over gold first, then we'll go over crude. Our top trade that we like to do, this is the 5 sim, this is gold's trade this morning. We have 2 time frames we look at. We look at the 5 sim Renko and the 3 sim Renko. 5 sim's a longer time frame, what you're seeing right now. So since 6 o'clock this morning, we've only had 1 trade on crude oil. Now we have 5-minute moving averages built into JaySignal. They're the same moving averages that are on our black charts over here. We only have 1 setup on JaySignal to learn. It's called the number 3 trade. A number 3 trade is a continuation trade. It's trying to sell a lower high or a higher low for buys. So what it's trying to do is trying to catch a lower high. If you look at any market top in the history of the market, go all the way back to charts. The history of the market, the major tops are always a lower high or a higher low, the big ones. Because the market's topping out. It's catching the wrongly positioned traders again. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to catch a lower high on JaySignal. So what happens is when we get a trend change, our moving averages are down. The best way to trade the 5 sim Renko is waiting for market profile to break and with hard 5-minute trend. Once you get below profile LVA, we have no support below us. There's no support below low value area, is there? This is all profit opportunity. Nothing to hold us up. No profile below us. So when I get the first retracement on the first fib dots, and I get the arrow, and then I get the triangle suggesting there's an order imbalance, that is your ultimate entry trade to take it lower. And then you can scale out with symmetry dots. Now, if you do the 5 sim Renko on exits, a good way to do is this also. If you get a hot one like gold, especially with gold news, if you get in with a hot trade where it's moving fast, you just can trail the highs of your doji and spinning top on the high and the wicks. As long as it doesn't close above it, you're good to go. So if your entry is 1207.50, there's no exit there. Only look at a spinning top, which are blue, or dojis or plus signs to get out. 1207.50 suggested hold, hold, hold. Remember, we don't care about the red and green bars. Hold, 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 hold. Only look for blue and spinning tops and dojis. There's your exit right here. You can take that trade all the way down and exit right there at 1202, 70, 80, depending on your fill. So you can take it down $500 per average per 1 contract just by using that trail technique for your exit using the 5 sim Renko. If you get into a hot one when the market's hot like this, when you break below LVA, the best time to use a trail technique like this on those highs of the doji or spinning tops until they close above it is when you get moving average spread and you break below LV and HVA and get your first retracement. If it's a first retracement trade, which it was, you typically get a good 40 to 60, sometimes 100 tick move. This is notorious to set up on the 5 sim to go $1,000 trade with $150 risk. So it's a very, very neat trade to look at on your setup when you're trailing. Okay? Very, very, very good way to do it. If you look on, now that's a number 3 trade. We only have 1 setup in the room called number 3 on JaySignal. Now there's 1 setup to look at, but there's 2 wave patterns. I want to record this for you so you can understand it. I'm still on crude oil now, Gerald. There's 2 wave patterns. So we have 1 setup called a number 3 trade. It tries to catch a higher low or lower high. I have 2 wave patterns off the number. It's called a number 3 setup. I have 2 wave patterns off of it. The first wave is called a motive wave with 5-minute trend. 5-minute moving averages are up. If you break out of HVA and 5-minute moving averages are up, your best trade is going to be a retest of those of the HVA. And if it stops right on the HVA and straddles it and doesn't close below it, and you get a buy signal, there's your arrow, there's your triangle for an order imbalance to get in. This is your best possible scenario setup you're going to get on JaySignal. This is your best setup you're going to get. When it stops exactly right on market profile after it breaks out and gives you a signal. You can't get any better setup than that with a motive wave with trend. You can't get better than that. The key is getting in the first retracement. Let it break out, let it retrace, get the first retracement. That's on all markets, no matter what. Any market you trade, same thing. It's your best trade you can get. It's allowed to dip below, however. It's allowed to dip below. HVA, come all the way down this black line. If it hits this line in the sand, I call it, and I still get a signal, I'll still take the trade because it's holding the black line in the sand. As long as you don't break below this in the first retracement, you're good to go to take the trade. But I want you to be aware of the really good ones because the really good ones can put a lot of ticks in your account. The good ones are if you break out of HVA, you retest HVA, you break below LVA, you retest LVA, and you get a signal. If that happens on my longer term time frame, like I said, on the 5-sim, that's your best setup you can ever have because you have a long time frame, breaking out of HVA and LVA, resting right on it, and then getting a signal on the first retracement. It's your best one you're going to get in all markets, right across the board. That's called a motive wave with 5-minute trend. So we have one setup we need to learn on JaySignal called a number 3 pattern. But there's 2 wave patterns off that. There's a motive wave and a corrective wave. The motive waves with 5-minute trend, it's very easy. You break out of HVA, retest, get the signal. Break below LVA in a downtrend, retest, get the signal. Then there's a counter wave. This is for you counter trend traders that love to counter trend trade out there. There's only one time you can counter trend trade off my methodology. Only one time. You can never counter trend trade off my black charts. It's got to be a trend, 5-minute trend on my number 1, number 3. But you're allowed to counter off a JaySignal. Only one scenario. It's called a corrective wave. If you get back inside a low value area, all right, now you're not allowed to take this guy either because it's a second test after breaking profile. That's not a trade. It's a no-no. Don't take all signals. Only take ones that break out, retest profile. If we break back inside of HVA, the market is now weakened. You're allowed to take the first retracement shorter in a corrective wave. That is a corrective wave. Guys, we're almost up into the number 1 again. Heads up on the number 1. 58.83 would be the high on the push. 83.86 would be the high on the push. But this would be the corrective wave where you break back inside of HVA, you take the first retracement, there's your short, a corrective wave. All right, Gerald, go and shut that off.